Good morning, kids. Today we're checking out a new proposal of SCP-001, 7-Day Scream. I've never heard of this proposal, and I kind of know quite a bit of the SCP Foundation, so let's see if SCP Explained can explain it.
Boom. On May 12, 2588, the town of Kangastok, Greenland was destroyed by a devastating 4-kiloton explosion, accompanied by a massive electromagnetic pulse. The few survivors that made it through the incident alive described seeing a pale green light in the area at the time of the explosion. Shortly after, an OMK-A class scenario, or end-of-death scenario, began, in which all multicellular life on Earth began to experience a regenerative effect regardless of injury or illness.
Whoa.
In other words, nobody could die anymore. This resulted in intense
something.
worldwide panic in the face of the inexplicable occurrence. As the panic mounted, the O5 Council of the SCP Foundation held an emergency meeting in order to address the possibilities at hand. Meanwhile, civilians began reporting sightings of a gigantic, pale white humanoid monster rampaging through their cities and communities, wreaking havoc and violently attacking anyone and anything in its path. As the situation progressed and worsened, and the reality of the end-of-death scenario began to set in, the SCP Foundation made the difficult decision to lift its veil of secrecy and reveal itself to the world. O5-1 made a statement to the UN regarding the reality of the worldwide anomaly, advising citizens to remain calm and await further instructions. 5 days after the world learned the truth of the SCP Foundation, the pale monster arrived in St. John's, Newfoundland, where it was met by Mobile Task Force Nu 7 Hammerdown for what they hoped would be a quick fight and neutralization. Instead, 2 years of devastating, bloody combat ensued.
2 years?
By July 4th, 2590, 90% of the task force personnel had been killed and regenerated an average of 5 times. At this point, MTF Nu 7 abandoned the city of St. John, citing anomalously poor working conditions. After being held in place for 2 years, the monster was able to break through the defensive line and continue its rampage. On October 10th, 2590, the SCP Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition came together in an act of unprecedented cooperation to found Project Beluga, dedicated to the goal of neutralizing the monster, designated SCP-UBU, and stopping its reign of terror. But Project Beluga was unable to neutralize the entity before it reached Columbus, Ohio on December 29th, 2590. Once it arrived in the city, SCP-UBU began dedicating its time to a gruesome personal project. First, it dug a 2-kilometer deep hole in the city's center. Next, it gathered a total of 2.9 million civilians, throwing them into the hole. After the hole was full,
What the heck is this thing? I mean, I guess that just makes sense. This is SCP-UBU. Hold on, that's almost a pun, like UBU, man. But, what the hell is this thing?
Entity leaped into the upper stratosphere, over and over again, stomping into the hole each time. When the people inside were pulverized, the entity destroyed a large fountain.
Oh, hold on, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Which it used as a cup and drank the resulting juices from the hole. This entire process took roughly 1 year, and when it was finished, the entity appeared to grow bored with Columbus and moved to Lake Erie. Upon reaching Lake Erie, SCP-UBU trudged out into the water and began assaulting the cargo ships docked there. It began lifting ships up and throwing them out of the water, some flying high enough to exit Earth's gravitational pull altogether.
Wait, what?
2 of the ships were later spotted on the surface of the moon. This chaos and destruction continued for years and years, until June 10th, 2670, when SCP-UBU was contained at SCP Foundation Site-59. However, this containment only lasted for 2 minutes, at which point the entity escaped and made its way to New York City, where it was found howling and attempted to defile the Statue of Liberty. Several countries used their nuclear arsenals to attack SCP.
I'm sorry, did you just say that the thing tried to with the Statue of Liberty? A shame.
UBU over the course of its rampage, until the Schenectady Agreement was signed on February 10th, 2674, cementing an agreement between NATO powers, the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, and the Global Occult Coalition. All signatories agreed that due to concerns around the environment, any additional nuclear strikes against the entity would be prohibited. After the signing was finished, SCP-UBU crashed the ceremony, wrapping several lengths of rebar and 15 foreign dignitaries, which it used to construct itself a bead necklace. The next notable incident occurred when used to construct having several lengths of rebar and 15 foreign dignitaries, which it used to construct itself a bead necklace. The next notable incident occurred when SCP-UBU showed up at Site-19, interrupting a round of testing with SCP-AFF, a woman capable of turning matter into stone by speaking to it. SCP-UBU broke through the ceiling, crushing AFF beneath its weight. SCP-682, which was also present, approached the entity curiously, and SCP-UBU responded by angrily defecating and shouting at SCP-682 in gibberish.
No, I'm sorry, but that's funny. Something approaches you, you respond by violently shitting yourself. No!
682 seemed to understand this vocalization and attacked SCP-UBU, demanding that it take back the insult. At this point, SCP-UBU slapped 682's cheek, causing 682 to let out a horrific scream. The slap left behind a glowing green mark, which spread over the entity of 682's body before breaking the bonds of its cells all at once, dissolving the reptile into a pool of toxic fluid. SCP-UBU then spent 5 minutes bathing in this fluid while giggling. After finishing its bath, devouring the reconstituted SCP-AFF, and screaming into the microphone for 20 minutes, SCP-UBU broke into Armed Containment Area 179 and swallowed SCP-2317 whole. On March 5th, 2686, SCP...
Wait, this thing just ate the indestructible reptile and the devourer of worlds. Oh shit, I think we're all screwed.
UBU conducted an assault on Thaumiel-class SCP-2000, rendering it neutralized. Again, years of hell passed as Project Beluga struggled to come up with new methods that had not already been exhausted. Meanwhile, civilians did their best to find ways to cope with the state of the world. On March 25, 2750, former film star Nash DeGroot published The Zonk Manifesto, a book based around a simple principle. Life on Earth was no longer worth living consciously, and the only way formed was to enter an eternal coma through the combination of chemicals and guided meditation. This kickstarted the social movement, the International Zonk. On June 24, 2790, Project Beluga forces managed to drive SCP-UBU into the Bay of Bengal, where it remained for 3 years, causing very little trouble aside from underwater seismic events. Meanwhile, the International Zonk continued to grow, and one massive adherence known as Cuddletopia reached its goal of 5 million residents. On June 10, 2793, SCP-UBU flung SCP-3000 out of the ocean, leaving it beached on the soil of India. Several cities were destroyed in this process. The entity then spent a week pointing and laughing at the beached sea monster, before grabbing it by the tip of its tail and beginning to drag it across Asia. SCP-UBU continued carving a path through Asia, the wriggling SCP-3000 in tow, until it reached the Bering Strait. Then it began to cross the strait into Alaska, returning to North American territory once more. But it didn't stop there, instead advancing toward South America until it and SCP-3000 arrived on the eastern coast of Brazil on August 29, 2793. There, it dragged its
This thing has just been dragging SCP-3000 around for months. I'm pretty sure SCP-3000 is dead since it needs water.
Fortunate charge back into the ocean once more, disappearing from sight. On August 30th, 2793, SCP-169, or the Leviathan, emerged from the depths of the ocean. There are some reports that SCP-3000 had been tied around its neck, but these have not been confirmed. The Leviathan and SCP-UBU then entered into a lengthy battle, which carried on for several hundred years. After so much time had passed that witnesses could scarcely remember a time when it wasn't happening, the fight between SCP-UBU and SCP-169 came to a halt. Much as it had with SCP-682, SCP-UBU slapped SCP-169 across the face, with such force that its cell bonds dissolved and it melted into a puddle of fluid, which was lost beneath the ocean waves. SCP-169 was reclassified, neutralized. December 11, 3020 marked the start of a 10-year period of inactivity for SCP-UBU. Ordinarily, one would expect this to come with a sense of relief. However, even in spite of the global immortality, the collateral damage from SCP-UBU's centuries of carnage had rendered the surface of the Earth uninhabitable, with all land now underwater. The remains of human civilization persist on a single archipelago of floating cities constructed from ships and debris. Meanwhile, the international Zonk movement has persisted.
Hold on, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Gaining more and more traction and popularity as conscious life became less and less bearable. An enormous floating Zonk pile consisting of international Zonk followers using anomalous methods to achieve the perfect Zonk began to form. Eventually, this pile earned the nickname New Zonkland. By May 28, 3028, the archipelago was abandoned, and the 140 remaining conscious humans retreated to the SCP Foundation's SCPS Naismith. There they lived in relative safety for several months, until SCP-UBU was spotted in the water off the port bow of the Naismith on January 14, 3030. It emitted several sounds that witnesses described as mocking, before swimming off towards New Zonkland. In response to this reappearance after 10 years of inactivity, the O5 Council called an emergency meeting. The transcript for this meeting reads as follows. We haven't exhausted all of our anomalous options for neutralizing UBU. Where's the corncrake? We've been over since Lawrence. Throwing the corn cake in this mess is only going to...
It is anchored 57 clicks due southeast. For why the hell did you tell him that?
Well, friends, it seems the Omega K has had us up and about so long that our personalities have run out of fuel we were given from birth. In all likelihood, we'd see better professionalism and teamwork in New Zonkland.
As a matter of fact, that's a good segue into what I was about to propose.
And frankly, I hope you find the nicest, cleanest spots in the mass grave. Where are you going? That depends. Which way is southeast? At this point, O5-11 left the room, presumably to track down the corncrake.
That's funny.
Leaving the remains of the O5 Council there, and leaving the remains of Project Beluga with the question of how to handle SCP-UBU. According to its official SCP Foundation file, SCP-UBU is an extremely violent and hostile humanoid entity of unknown origin, which appeared in Greenland on May 12, 2588. It displays anomalous physical strength and speed, as well as reality-bending capabilities and the emission of regenerative lambda waves linked to the ongoing end-of-death scenario. The appearance of SCP-UBU and the start of the end-of-death scenario coincided with several additional phenomena. There was a mass loss of function for all the objects operated by the Three Moons Initiative. The Three Moons Initiative was an extra-dimensional human organization based in SCP-2922-C, or the afterlife known as Korbenek. This organization was founded 14,000 years ago with the purpose of establishing a human colony in the afterlife, and has long maintained a peace treaty with the SCP Foundation. SCP-2922, a method of communication that allowed a human mind to make calls to any pre-established phone number, ceased all functions. Next, the extra-dimensional space known as the Wanderer's Library, a magical archive of all the knowledge from all known worlds, and every book that has ever been written, will be written, and several that have not and will not exist, was severed from Earth. When the SCP Foundation pressed the Serpent's hand for answers,
someone closed the book on that one. Pun.
A representative answered that irreconcilable security concerns regarding Earth had come up, and forced them to make this decision. A representative of Marshall, Carter & Dark Limited somehow gained access to the personal contact information of the O5 Council's members, and used this information to reach out to them with a business offer. The company is ordinarily on unfriendly terms with the SCP Foundation, due to their conflicting interests, namely Marshall, Carter & Dark's interests in acquiring and selling anomalous items, entities, and experiences to the highest bidder. However, in this case, the
probably not wise to sell some of those, because, you know what, if you know SCP, you know why that's a bad idea in some cases. Not all. Not all.
Company's representative approached O5 Council members with a mixture of politeness and desperation, begging the SCP Foundation to purchase large amounts of the company's stock. The forest known as SCP-4000 lost all of its anomalous properties all at once. Investigation revealed only a small parchment note in the area's entryway, which read, "Good luck."
Oh,
One of the most
shit.
perplexing and disconcerting phenomenon that occurred concurrently with SCP-UBU's first appearance was what happened to SCP-3008, the Infinite IKEA. Though this sort of thing should have been impossible, the Infinite IKEA was anomalously purchased by some unknown entity. The IKEA branding was stricken from the building, and it was converted into an emergency shelter. All of these occurrences combined to serve as a warning. Something big is coming.
Yeah,
and indeed,
definitely.
it was. SCP-UBU. It appears to be impervious to most forms of damage, including blunt force trauma, heavy caliber machine gun fire, temperatures up to 1600 degrees Kelvin, artillery fire, and direct energy discharge from other anomalies. It did express some discomfort when exposed to severe simultaneous direct nuclear strikes, but it was not affected beyond that. The only recorded instance of lasting damage to SCP-UBU was on August 14, 2784, in which the entity bit its left thumb, seemingly for no reason other than curiosity. After biting its thumb, the entity screamed for 7 days straight, then entered into a month-long crying fit. 30 years and 14 days later, the thumb had completely healed. SCP-UBU stands at a height of 4.3 meters.
So maybe the only thing that can kill UBU is UBU itself.
The exact measure of its weight is unknown. Attempts at measurement during its brief time in containment showed that its weight is at least 15,399 kilograms.
Damn.
Its exact anatomical composition is unknown, but a superficial examination of the entity indicates that its body shape resembles that of a large androgynous humanoid, covered in hairless white skin similar in texture to that of a dolphin or small whale. The entity has no eyes, ears, or nostrils, but seems to still possess the ability to see, hear, and smell. Its only visible sensory organ, aside from its skin, is its 0.5 meter wide mouth, humanoid in nature, with a prehensile tongue of unknown length. On its lower body, it has no apparent features, aside from a cloaca that it uses to dispose of waste. SCP-UBU is prone to
So it does have an
vocalizations,
asshole.
mainly screaming, laughing, and babbling, but it does not appear to understand speech in any known language, nor does it seem to be attempting to communicate with anyone it encounters. Its primary interest appears to be destruction and causing as much of it as possible. It will attack anything that it can get its hands on, but seems to show a particular preference for attacking and consuming human beings in large populous areas, such as cities. Its demeanor is both sadistic and childlike, and it has been seen playing with its victims for hours before moving on to a new target. Due to its regenerative effect present in SCP-UBU's vicinity, it is incapable of causing permanent damage to any living thing, and seems to have no greater motivation beyond causing fear and pain. SCP-UBU is classified as Tiamat, meaning that it cannot be reasonably contained at this time, with the resources that the Foundation has. Therefore, the focus has shifted from containment to neutralization, which is ongoing via Project Beluga. Any and all non-critical resources will be funneled into Project Beluga, as neutralization of SCP-UBU is a top priority. Additional information on neutralization efforts is restricted, and may only be accessed by members of Project Beluga. But in the end, it won't be Project Beluga that defeats this monstrous creature.
What will it be?
The staunch efforts of one extremely dedicated researcher. Now check out the O5 Council Must Die SCP-001 The Way It Ends Ouroboros Cycle.
Well, looks like that's the end of it. And we have no idea what UBU is, where it came from, what it can do. We don't know anything about it. And other than it looks like a muscular guy with no hair and apparently still has an asshole. You know what? The thing is an a-hole. Well, folks, that's going to be the end of this answerless episode. But if you want to support the original creators and all they do, link will be in the description below. And I'll see all of you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.